So here we go, folks. We're going to do a little attempt to repair the old fuel sender for the gas gauge on the 78 Toyota pickup truck. I'm going to try to cover step by step and see how it goes. First off, this cover is usually on here, like that. See this little tab right here? And there's another one over here, and there's one on the bottom that goes through that little slot. I've already got those bent, and I already took the cover off. And if we look, we can see we got some broken wires here. Turn it over. You see some broken wires back there. You can see a few sticking up there, maybe. I've been looking at this, and I'm going to try to figure out how to get it apart. First things first, see this little clip right here? I don't know if I advise taking that off right now. It's on there fairly tight. A little brass wheel that seems to hold everything together up here, and I'm not sure how that comes off, if it's just a press fit or I don't think it unscrews. Look this over. There we go. See the arm's connected to this wiper, and that wiper arm, excuse me, it's up under that brass wheel. So we're going to see about getting this apart. When I find out something, I'll let you know. One end of the wire on the card is soldered here. Do not take this out. This is a rivet. If you do, you're going to have to find something else to put in there. I don't advise doing it. The other end I don't know. I can't see where it connects to anything. Maybe it just connects to the frame, to ground. And also there's two little tabs, one here and one back here. You just bend those up real easy to free this board up. But once I start getting it apart, I'll come back and show you. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get you a better look at these parts. Got a jeweler's loop here. We'll see if we can do something with that. There we go. Hang on. There we go. You can't tell if you can see anything with that or not. See the broken wires a lot better. There's a little spring under that brass wheel. But we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so here's the deal. This does not come apart, and you shouldn't try to take it apart. Best thing to do is a little tab right here on the card, and that sits up next to this pin, which it's soldered to. I got the soldering iron out, got to heat it up, and got it, melt the solder, unsolder it. There's specialized tools to do this to make it easier. Of course, I don't have them. I just melted it, let it cling to the tip, and take it off bit by bit until I got the little tab loose from here. It was just laying up on the side of it, and it's just soldered to it, no big deal. Then there's two little tabs here that hold the card down. Just straighten them straight up. Just take your time with it. I use a little needle nose pliers here. You can use regular size, but it's going to be a little more difficult, but just take your time. I bend them up enough to clear the little slots in the card right there. I put the float all the way down to get this side up and off first, and then that didn't work. So then I put this all the way back the other way like this to get that wiper out of the way. Pop this side up first and move it just a little bit this way. And then pop this side up. This wiper arm, as you can see, is fairly flexible. Just take your time, go slow with it. Little bit of force at a time, little bit of force at a time. I might have to bend this back down so I have good contact with the wires once I'm done, but that's not a big deal. Again, just use these and just very slightly bend it back. So you can grab it like that. See? So there you go. Do not try to take this apart. You'll mess it up. Good Lord. If I pull this out of here, the width of this is about 5/8. It's a little less than 1/4 thick. I just went ahead and figured 3/4 of an inch for a full wrap on it. And it comes out to about 4 feet of wire. And that times 27, I forget what the calculation was, but it's about 97 ohms. That's pretty good. And on this card here, you see this little metal tab right here? See his little ears on either side, and there's an ear on the card side. You need to bend those up just very, very slightly. Get a sharp knife or something. That's why I use the old steak knife here. I don't know if you can see this, but we'll try to get you a look. Just bend them up, because those wires are just shoved under there. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little wire off, put the new wire in, and then shove the new wire under there just like it is. And then bend the tabs back down. That's what holds it in place, and that's the contact for this little tab right here. The other end I haven't quite figured out yet, but I'll have another look. I'll keep going. I'll update you. Just a little duh on me. This little tab here that those wires are on, go to this, which go to this side, which go to this wire. And this feeds your gas gauge circuit. The wiper arm is part of the body. The body is attached to the stem that holds the fuel pump, which is part of the flange, which is connected to the gas tank, which is connected to the frame. So that's ground. So there is no other end down here that needs to connect to anything. It connects through this arm. Next up. Okay, so we got all the wire off the old card. I don't know if that's going to help you see it in here or not. Let's try this. I know it's not so good close up, but I'll do the best I can. Still got some nice lines on it. One thing to know, those little tabs I told you about that you need to bend up, that was a separate problem. It's got a brass rivet holding it to the card, and it seems like they wound like 4 or 5, actually 3 or 4 strands on it first. Well, probably wound the card first, and then riveted this little tab thing on, because 3 or 4 of those wires were under the little rivet there, and I had to cut them off. It's as clean as I can get it. They're just going to have to overlap on that. I may be able to solder them to that piece of brass. It's not really in the way of anything. It'll clear those little tabs. And just put 3 or 4 back under there and crimp them back down, so I'll have good contact on this end. But the card's in good shape. It didn't crack on me, thank God. That would have been a disaster. But there we go. Here's some of the old wire. I don't know if you can see that, but man, it's really thin. It's a short piece. There's the long stuff. Let's get a contrast there. There we go. It's about, I measured the one complete piece I could get off was just a touch over 4 feet. And I did measure it. Apparently this is enameled wire, so you can't just clip onto it anywhere and measure it. How do you find the little shiny spots? 1 foot seems to measure about 20 to 22 ohms, which would indicate it's a little bit thicker than 36 gauge. Let's see if I can find something here for you.
About that upper wall.
Quiet you. Jeebs. Always something. There we go. You can see that. My Chrome 60. 36 gauge. 27 ohms a foot. Man, this lighting is horrible. But there you go. So 36 to 34, that says 17, so I think it's probably closer to 36. It'll be close enough. You don't want to come a little short on your ohmage. A little bit over is actually not a big problem. But there you go. And I got my wire here, Jacobs Online. There's the address if you can read it. So there we go. And I got 10 foot. It should do this job. It's $3 plus shipping, $4 total. 10 foot on a card. You can get 100 foot spools for $5.50 if you're going to need more. A lot of people use this for coils for vaping. Works the same way. It's plain like this. It's not enameled. You can find enameled out there. You really don't need it. From what I've been reading, so no big deal. So there we go. Next step is to start getting the old magnifying eyeballs going here and get it wound up. I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. And just so you know, this is the way the wire comes in. First class mail. There's their address. A little better. 26.7 ohms a foot. 27 is close enough. Here's what it looks like. Just about 10 feet on a card. A little plastic card. Looks to be about right. Looks to be about the same diameter. So we'll get busy on this. So, here's what I've learned so far. Got it started pretty well. Under the little tabs there, about 4 wraps, and bent them all back down. I'm having to use the jeweler's loop to see where the lines are for the old wire. Spacing's not horrible, but man, it's going to take a little bit of doing. That's about 5 minutes right there. Don't get too concerned or crazy about keeping them exactly separated. If you rewind an old one, there's going to be little notches up on the edges of this card. You can kind of follow that. You can follow the old lines. It's just really painstaking. Takes a lot of time, effort, and concentration. Important thing here, when you unwind this stuff from the card, grab it and run it between your finger and the fingernail and forefinger, and it'll take the little notches out. You see where it's been round around the card? It's got little indentations in it, like that. Just go like this. Pinch down and give it a good pull. Smooths them right out. Makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to continue and see what happens. Well, she's getting there. Not too bad. In case I did say it before, look for the little notches in that raised ridge running diagonally across the front. And look for little notches in the ends. I'm using the 10 power jeweler's loop, which is a little difficult because I got to squinch it in my eye and use both hands to wrap this thing. If you can find a surplus place or electronic shop or hobby shop or something like that that's actually got the one with the headband, you could use, like the gal in, what is it, Ghostbusters 2, who's redoing the paintings, magnifier. That would be really, really helpful. But so far, so good. It's just taking longer because of that. I need both hands, and I got to squinch that in. It'd be nice if I just have it, on my head. But it's not looking too bad. I'm going to go back in with a really sharp-edged knife and just, take some wires apart that I got too close to each other that are touching. Just me being OCD. I'll continue. I'll show you when it's done. Well, there she is. I don't know how much you can see. Came out not too bad looking. Let's see, backside. A few little wires here and there I need to separate, but that's not a big deal. Right now I'm going to throw a little solder at the little brass hole on the end on both sides, because I got one over top here. I'm going to go ahead and solder that down and see how that goes, and then we'll straighten out the other lines and see about getting the epoxy on it. Okay, so we got the epoxy done. Looking pretty good. So I can give you a little bit better look here. Use the loop. There we go. Epoxy came out pretty nice. The other side. Okay. I did the sides away from this ridge. I had a few high spots on it. I was worried about it being a little too high and the contact not getting it, so I used my little file here. And in case you're wondering, that's what I used. Loctite clear epoxy. Worked really good for me. Stuff set up pretty hard, and like I said, it's that, you know, as you can see, it's absolutely clear. So you can see what's going on. So I'll get the unit back together now and get that tab resoldered on there back in a bit. And we're done. Amazing. Sorry I didn't show you some of the stuff, but I ran into a few problems. Let's see if we can get you a look at something here. There we go. You see these two little black tabs right there? Right where the little metal tab comes through. There's two little black locating tabs on the back of the card that you wrap the wire around. And they locate in that slot. I put a little too much epoxy on there, and I had to get a really small file and file it down. So when you epoxy this thing up, stay away from the tabs. Do not put any epoxy around those tabs. You don't really need to really dunk this thing. Do the back, but stay away from the edges. I mean the ends, excuse me. And you can just, you know, smear the edges a little bit. And if you want to smear the face, be really, really light with it, because I actually had to get my file, this one here, the contact file, and actually file the epoxy down, because it wasn't fitting in there. It was sitting up too high. And there was also epoxy on the surface side where the wiper blade comes across the windings. It was not allowing the blade to actually contact the wire. So be real sparing with it on the front side. There's one guy I saw online on the Samba. I'll try to get a link in the description below, who epoxied the whole face of the thing because he wanted the wires to move. He did it really, really thin and light, and then when it dried, he took a knife and scraped the epoxy off, and then took like steel wool or really fine sandpaper to it to get the wire exposed. It worked for him. I'll tell you what though, this is a long, tedious job. If you don't have a lot of patience, or you don't have several days to stretch this over, don't bother. Go buy yourself one out of the junkyard that's intact, that has good wires on it. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother with it. I'm only bothering with it because I've run out of gas twice in the past 2 weeks, and I'm sick and tired of it. So I had to do something. I previously tested the float. It doesn't have any pinholes. It's all airtight, so it's all good. But there you go. You have the cover back on. The little tabs bent back in place to keep the cover on. I have tested it with a meter. it reads a little high on the full side and a little high on the empty side. You just got to play with it when you're winding it and try to get the right amount of turns on it. I think I'd still recommend 34 gauge instead of 36 for this, especially if you're going to do a lot of turns on this, because that'll actually help you out in the end. You have to do the math on it. I can't explain it right now. But anyway, there it is. Not too bad. Meter says it's working fine, working smooth. There's no dead spots on it. So, get new gas tank. Well, not new, but used from Jim's Yoda's coming in tomorrow. And this is going to get put in there. Thank God I kept the screws for it, because it just screws right to the stem. But we'll get her in there, and finally we'll may have a working gas gauge again, and we might have a gas tank that doesn't smell or leak. How novel. But there you go. I showed you as much as I could. I hope it's a help to some of y'all out there. Thanks again for watching. See ya.